Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel, the Team Cosmic Bodies YouTube channel. My name is Lauren.
And I am Coach Kyle.
And yes, we are both the coaches at Team Cosmic Bodies. I am an IFBB Bikini Pro, competed on the Mr. Olympia in the Arnold stage, and Kyle has been coaching me since...
Yeah. I mean, I've competed a few times, and so amateur bodybuilder, but yeah, mainly coaching. Definitely mainly coaching. And we've had this business since about 2015, going full-time at 2017, as far as coaching for other physique athletes, contest prep, but also general wellness. And yes, we're back on the YouTube, back on that routine and rhythm. So yeah, our goal is to kind of start putting out some info on this channel. So I guess comment down below what you kind of want to see from us on this channel, and super stoked to get back into it.
Yes, and so today our main topic we're going to be talking about is being food focused after contest prep and how to deal with it, and tips and tricks that we have shared with our clients and with us personally. So yeah, first off, just a definition of being like food focused, and this is what I've gotten from all of my clients here that deal with this, is just being not satisfied after a meal or constantly thinking about the next meal. Like they just eat something and then they're like, I'm hungry again. Even if they're not hungry, like they're just still thinking about what their next meal is going to be, and their next meal and their next meal. That's what being food focused is.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be some contest prep, long diet. It can just be an extended fat loss phase. You have dropped a decent amount of weight and you're kind of ending that, right? You're finishing that off and you're kind of going into maintenance phase or eating more again. Or it doesn't even have to be that. It could just be you've been tracking your macros and calories for a while and you're kind of just super food focused there. So you don't have to, I guess, be dieting. It's just, this example got brought up because of a client of hers did just lose 30-40 pounds in a contest prep, and so this idea kind of popped up of tips there. And so
you kind of lose a little bit of your hunger sensations and everything while you are losing 40 pounds like my client did. Constantly dieting, being in a deficit. So obviously when the show was over, she was still thinking of these set macros in her head. And even we did get her calories up really high. She was eating, we got up to 265 grams of carbs, if not 275. Fat is up. She's put on a decent amount of body weight post-show, and she just was coming to me still going, Lauren, like what is wrong with me? Like what's going on? Currently she 6 weeks post-show. And she had a very wonderful reverse. Willpower was high throughout it. So we both decided to come up with the agreement of not tracking macros. Let's step away from the food scale. Let's step away from plugging things into your MyFitnessPal. And we did it for a weekend, and she got back to me her next check-in and said, Lauren, I actually continued doing it throughout. I did it through the weekend. I did it in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all the way to check-in day. And she's felt so freeing. She felt like she had stress kind of relieve her. And she realized that she wasn't stressed, and it was kind of a stress thing at the end of the day. Like it would be the end of the night and she would not know what her macros were at this like target number. Like I have 10 more carbs to hit. She maintained her body weight throughout the whole week and she felt really good. So now we're continuously doing it.
Yeah, and a couple more points. I'll go back to that in a second. And so when you're doing this, you're tracking your macros for a while, dieting and cutting for a while, and you're just super focused on a goal, I think people get numb, like she was talking about, where they don't really, they're just able to push. They're able to push. And so when the goal is kind of over, that's when it becomes really, really tough to then live the lifestyle and keep the progress. So some big things to think about is, what are your habits before you do this tracking of your macros or before the big cut? How are your habits of what you eat and how you live your lifestyle, you know, whether you're doing cardio or training and just eating whole foods and healthy, compared to if you're overeating and binging a lot and then go into a prep or go into a big fat loss or go into tracking your macros and then you just go back to what she's saying, that could be an issue. So it always does depend on context, and it is tough. It's very, very common, but so that is something to think about, is what are your habits before getting into this stuff? And that is going to play, and we can talk about that in a little bit later as far as what she's asking her client and tips she helped her client with for intuitive eating. But yeah, and then just at the end of a fat loss phase and stuff like that, your hormones are kind of messed up a little bit, meaning your hunger signaling, saying you're full or not, and how hungry you are. And I just think as you put on a little bit of weight, or as you eat more calories, or as you do more of this intuitive, I think, and as long as you're not just doing a ton of cardio and you're super, super lean, your body will level out with time. So a big tip we tell people after this show is, first things first, we really want to know their habits before we get into this. And then we want to talk about making new goals, right? Because you want to make new goals after this because you don't want to feel so lost. You're like, why am I doing this? What is this worth it to me if you don't, you know? So hopefully you enjoy the process and you make some new goals. And then the tips there too is understanding that, you know, you are going to be really kind of hungry after anyway. After her client lost her 40 pounds in a 9 months or a year for her first ever show, and she did incredible, and she made a lot of progress. And then after the show, it's like, okay, what are some tips we say? We're like, you're going to be hungry no matter what, so if you just keep tracking for a little bit initially, a lot of your cravings will go away. You know, so I think it's like you have to leave a little bit of that willpower to kind of keep tracking and staying on track, because you're just in a vulnerable spot where you can put on a lot of muscle, but you can also put on a lot of body fat. And so if you just, instead of going out and eating crazy foods, you just go back to your old off-season habits or your old off-season meals of what you did when you grew up. Let's say you had decent parents and they gave you home-cooked meals all the time, and you know, you go back to those meals. You don't have to go back and eat pizza every weekend.
And like he's saying, obviously post show you're gonna have crazy cravings because you haven't, you know, had these meals in a long time, whether that's ice cream, pizza, or whatever. But those do go away if you wait like 4 weeks or whatever post show. They will go away, and then you honestly, even I have some clients that it's like after the show weekend, they're like, oh my gosh, I am just so excited to get back on my plan and eat my own food and my own meals and stuff.
People socially want to talk to you and hang out with you after the prep or a big fat loss phase, or maybe you're like not tracking as tight anymore. And so you kind of have to pick your battles there really well, or the holidays, and just know that there is always food gonna be there. And so you just want to pick your battles wisely. Like sometimes, yeah, you can get that dirtier meal and have that burger, but then sometimes you do want to just order that salad at lunch because you've been eating out a lot. And so you have to, that's part of the intuitiveness and just picking your battles, knowing food's not going to go away, and there's a difference between like a desire to eat and like you actually need to eat. But yeah, how can we kind of talk about the,
I was just gonna also say, like, don't plan that like vacation right after your show too. If you actually want to have a proper reverse diet and put on body fat in a controlled manner, just to help your hormones, to help your hunger sensations and all of that, like I would definitely not recommend, okay, like post show going on a cruise or something. Like tell your family, hey guys, I just dieted, I just got really lean, I just need like 3 weeks just to be at home and be in a good environment, and then you can plan that vacation. Because like Kyle said, I mean, there's always going to be vacations, meals out, and social events. But yes,
they add up. They start to add up. Like you can get away with a lot. If you lose 40 pounds, you can kind of get away with a lot initially. If you're really lean, your metabolism is all ramped up. You can have some big meals and probably not see too much damage. You're like, whoa, look at me, I can get away with it. But then if you just keep doing it, it'll add up. Like if you...
But also, so what I allowed my client to do as well is go out and have a meal too. Like she really wanted sushi, so she did. She had the sushi meal, and then she was like, Lauren, like I came home and I was fine. I didn't feel like I needed to keep on eating because she felt like a good freeing feeling that she really wasn't really honing in on these set macros. So she felt really good about it. She said she just had like one more carb protein meal and then went to bed. So I was really happy because she is a first time competitor, and
yeah, she's doing really well.
Just with this, really is a good thing.
It is a tough thing for a lot of people. Depending on what their habits were before, it's really tough to transition away from tracking if you've been doing it for months or years, and it can kind of mess with your head to be all or nothing. So that's a big thing, and we'll go into some tips now. Is that it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Right? And so we're talking about picking your battles wisely and having preferences that you can talk to your coach or mentor or by yourself about this stuff. So a couple things to think about is initially you probably should keep tracking for a good amount of time after a fat loss ends. Get rid of a lot of the cravings as you reduce cardio and up the calories and all that. And maybe put on a little bit of weight and stuff like that. So your hormones start to kind of balance out, time helps, and the cravings kind of go away a little bit. So you're still tracking pretty closely. Maybe you don't track a few things here and there like vegetables or something. And then, so how would you say is a good way to transition? So first things you said is have an untracked meal once a week, and you let your client do that.
Yep, I allowed her to do that, which helped with just being social with her parents and sitting down, even though she wasn't ordering the crazy thing every time.
You can get like an ice cream cone. That could be your untracked meal that on a Sunday or something. You don't have to make it a meal.
So. Or just make a meal at home. You know, make a meal at home that you're not tracking. You know, with your family making a burger.
So that's a good place to start. Is doing that once a week. How many weeks post show?
And then moving into just eating the same meals that you would every day, but you're just not tracking it. So eat your same breakfast that you have every day. Just don't weigh out your egg whites maybe, and don't, plug in the 2 pieces of toast that you use in your first meal. So that's another way that we transitioned into it. And she was like, Lauren, at the end of the day, I was like eating my same food that I ate every day.
So it's like a portion control thing where it's nice to not snack. It's nice to have those 4 meals or 5 meals that you already were doing and tracking, and you just kind of make them. And maybe you only do that, 2-3 times a week initially. So you track the other days of the week, and then a few days of the week, you're saying, okay, I'm not going to track. I'm just going to eat something similar, and maybe one of them is an untracked meal, but it's similar meals that you would normally eat anyway. And if it's off a few grams, you really kind of have to put your mind at ease and being like that. It's all kind of just that's really small percentages if your stuff's off a few grams. Like those calories are not that big of a deal.
And then just really think about your protein at each meal. I mean, we're bodybuilders. We're trying to put on muscle here. We're in our improvement season. We need the protein. So that's what I usually tell them first is just think about your protein first, and then think about whether else you're going to put in there. And because that's going to make you more satisfied as well.
And I would just say it could be a quick transition for some. There's really experienced people out there that, they have these really good habits, and then they end their big fat loss phase or their show, and it's really easy for them to just transition into their normal meals, higher carb meals, and then mentally it's just easier for them to transition. And I do think it gets easier with time the more you do this, and it might be something where you need to do it a little slower initially. You might need to be one of those people who have to track some people enjoy tracking their macros and it doesn't really affect them that much. So
I did it for years.
Yeah, so it's not a big deal if you do just keep tracking. You don't have to move to intuitive eating, but if it is messing with you where you're so food focused. Another thing is people get food focused with how much they can fit in their macros. So they'll make these crazy high volume meals, which can be a tool at times. But you don't want to do it all the time where you're spending a ton of time in the kitchen preparing these meals, especially if they're not big meals that you're going to eat very quick anyway, that took so much time. So that's a big thing.
Well, that could be a video food focused during prep.
No, but people do it after prep because they
Yeah.
want food
Oh,
now, and they're still
I was still doing that.
They're still eating high volume, and they're still like
Kyle's walking by going, why are you still eating all that like lettuce with your meal, or why you replace the rice cakes now? So it's like, yeah, I mean, it's a thing that people do during contest prep. They want to make
so
their
some
food
meals
bigger.
might be simple, right? If you're a busy person, maybe a couple of the meals are extravagant and fun if you enjoy that. But yeah, don't spend too much time in the kitchen. Like, cook your food in bulk and prepare your meals, and some meals might be kind of just simple.
Yes.
So
they don't all have to be beautiful, extravagant meals.
yeah, and that'll help. Like, less time in the kitchen might help.
Yeah.
If you're sitting there making crazy meals, that can make the food focus. So there's a couple tips right there.
Well, good. I think that really hit food focused after a contest prep, and
Yeah,
do you agree?
Yeah, just be consistent and be patient with yourself. And everyone's different, so it might take a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And if you mess up, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Where it could be this snowball effect. You know, literally, you can get back on track that very next meal, that very next day. Like, don't let it snowball effect where then you're adding all this weight back on that you work so hard to get off. You know, and if you just hold on for a little bit longer, everything kind of redistributes and balances out, and it could only be 6 or 8 weeks after all this, and you start to feel more normal, and things will kind of just
really, it really does.
Yeah.
It really does. So, okay, thank you so much for listening. We're gonna end it here and see us in the next one. Bye.